Hello everyone, this is Shravani Charagundla. This is a small presentation about supply chain management in the Army Service Corps. So before we jump in, let's talk about the two terms supply chain management and Army Service Corps. Supply chain management is the process that involves different units in the supply chain. The manufacturer making the product to the end user receiving the product. So, what is Army Service Corps? Army Service Corps is a logistics department in the Indian Army which deals with the rations and food supplies being sent to the army. Moving on, let's look at the prototype of the Army Service Corps. So, on the top, we have the Army Service Corps, which is further divided into divisions, and each division is further divided into different units. So, firstly, the unit places a request for the supplies. So, once the request is placed, the request is sent to the division. The division further sends it to the units under it. If this unit has it, it will send it to the unit which requires it. If none of the unit has it, then the division will send it to the ASC. And then the similar process continues with this division as well. Now let's look at the need for blockchain. So in the previous slide, you saw that at each step, we are sending a request from one unit to another unit. So what blockchain does here is, whenever you're sending data, it makes a transaction, because of which the transactions are stored on a digital ledger, and hence making the process more transparent and traceable. Another aspect of blockchain is the data and the transaction details are in encrypted form, because of which no one can manipulate or tamper with the data. And hence, blockchain makes chain management more traceable, more transparent, and more secure. Moving on. So we have actually made a smaller version to mimic the ASC. So in this we have two roles, a buyer and a vendor. So what happens here is, first the buyer places a request for supplies, and then the vendor views the pending request and he sets a quote for it. The buyer accepts the best quote and the vendor gets to see that his request is accepted. So now let's go and look at the project. So this is the screen. So actually what happened is we need to have different users on different computers. So because of which we have actually included all the users and we have given them separate pages. In the future, we would like to add login details, and then based on the login, we would like to redirect the user to the user specific page. So now let's go to the buyer page and then add the supplies. Let's add another item and then add supplies. Now let's place a request. So what you see here is a MetaMask. This is a web extension. It maintains all the user accounts and it helps us in making transactions. So now the order is placed. Let's go to the vendor page. The vendor gets to see the item name, quantity, and the price per unit. The price per unit is set by the vendor, based on which the gross product price is automatically calculated. And hence you see that the total is also reflected over here. Now you can submit the code. You see that at each step the MetaMask opens and makes a transaction. Actually, there is no there is no very big amount being transferred. It is just a transaction fee. What happens here is the transaction fee acts as an incentive to the miners who are playing a major role in validating the block. Now let's go to the vendor 2. So both the vendor 1 and vendor 2 get to place the price per unit independently. So once it's done, you see that the total is calculated, and once more the transaction is being taking place. So let's confirm the transaction and then okay. And then you can see the summary over here. So now let's go to the buyer's page and see the requests. So on show quotations, you can see the vendor 1 has given this amount of quote and the vendor 2 has given this quote. So you can accept any of the quote. Before that, you want to look at what are the items and what is the quantity. So this card gives that information. So now you can accept one of the quote. Once it's accepted, you see that the transaction is taking place. And once I confirm it, it also reflects on the accepted quotes. So here you can see the request ID is 6, the vendor 1's quote is accepted, and here are the details of what are the items and what are the quantities. So this is our project. In near future, we would like to add the transaction details in the project, and we would also like to add what are the transactions taking place and the timestamps, and we would like to add different users having different accounts. And taking on this to the further step, we would implement it for the army. Thank you.